Hi everyone, Tarran Deane here, and it's nice to have your company. So this is day one of what will be 27 days of live streaming around 5:30 Brisbane time every day in February. So today is February 2nd, and why I'm doing this, just to recap on the launch video that we gave yesterday, was simply that each year friends and I from our local church, well, we commit to doing something fresh and invigorating that sets the scene for the full year, and that's fasting. And so I've wanted to come to you very casually and informally from my front veranda down here in Burleigh Heads and share with you the focus that I'm going to be having throughout February. Now, it's typically around the following 3 points. So form, how do I turn up? What's my attitude? It's going to encompass faith. How am I drawing closer and holding those things that matter most close to my heart in and out of everyday activities, such as going to work, whether it's in relationships with friends and family, or even just connecting with people in community. And that third piece is around fasting. So what am I prepared to give up? What price am I prepared to pay to make this happen? So I'm a lover of skinny cappuccinos and the occasional chocolate at night. So there's a couple of things that I'm sacrificing. Now, it's not to big note, it's rather just to demonstrate that when we're prepared to give something up in order to draw closer to something that matters, there's a price that we pay and there's a level of commitment that we buy into. So I just want to do a shout out to those folks that are joining us online. Hi David, how are you? Hope you've had a great day in the office. And to others, thanks for coming online. Be sure to leave a comment in the chat. So those three things are around form, faith and fasting. And I think there's significant empowerment that comes with being aware of those three things. So each day at roughly 5:30 Brisbane time Australia, I'm just going to be sharing a little bit about my progress and also hopefully imparting a little bit of accrued knowledge that I've gained through the years as we look at one of the chapters from the book that I wrote a couple of years ago. So this is the Alphabet Principle, your A to Z guide to being a compelling leader. And after accumulating at the time more than 45,000 hours in leadership, this book came to life after about 2.5 years of writing and was published in Melbourne last 2018, so around March 2018. It's been sold in multiple countries around the world. It's available through the website, but I use it time and again as a checklist. So it's literally the A to Z guide, and each chapter has a checklist at the end. So I wanted to spend some time today just reflecting on those three things that I mentioned: form, faith and fasting, and do so through the lens of authenticity. What does it mean to be truly who you are? So let me start with form, and we can look at it through that lens. So the way that this will progress thanks David, what's up? During our 10-15 minutes together here is I want to consider the word form. So in Australia, form can be what, through the dictionary definition, what form does something take? What shape does it take? Another piece of Australian satire and colloquialism is how's her form? How's his form? And that speaks to the attitude. So how are we going to turn up, turn out and turn on in our private lives and our professional lives as leaders, whether we're in charge of teams or we're just self-leading? That's the most important thing. How do we turn up every day? Biblically, there's an opening scripture in the Bible that says, in the beginning the world was without form and void. And if you think of us as children, initially we were without form, then we came into being, then we started being taught things by family and friends, and then we began picking up on things, and our form began to shift from being truly who we were, so naive and innocent and beautiful, to actually take on behaviors that may not have been pleasant. And yet here we are now in varying degrees of adulthood. and it's an opportunity this February to focus on your form. What is it that you need to sacrifice? What is it you need to lay on the altar and give up? That's a really sucky attitude that it's not going to serve you moving forward. And when I think of form through that lens of authenticity, this isn't about trying to be like somebody else. This is endeavoring to achieve a PB, a personal best. So when I was writing this book, I came across the dictionary definition of authenticity, and it says not false or copied, but genuine, real, reliable and trustworthy, having the origin supported by unquestionable evidence, entitled to acceptance or belief because of agreement with known facts or experience, authenticated and verified. And under the International Human Rights Act, all of us are verified, not vilified, verified. We have inherent human rights. So what is it that some folks try to prove? I believe one of the challenges we face as leaders is getting really clear on our identity and what it is that we stand for. I'm a mum and a stepmum, 4 beautiful girls in total. They're all in adulthood, 25 through to 35. I know you're going, how good is her skin, right, David? But the conversations I have with them is that they are valuable and they are worthy, and there's nothing different that they can do to shift that. So when we're being authentic as leaders, it's important that we take stock of where we're at. We consider our form, our attitude, as it were, and recognize also that despite all the things that may have happened to us, they are not excuses for us continuing to have unforgiveness in our hearts or bad attitudes. So that brings me to the next piece when we consider authenticity, and that's faith. Faith is the substance of believing in things not yet seen. So what faith do you have spiritually? What faith do you have in yourself? What faith are you demonstrating in others? How are you challenging the unconscious bias that is now starting to rise up? I've shared this story a few times with different folks that many years ago, my husband Dave and I joined Gungala Church. It's led by Indigenous pastors with a wonderful congregation, and we felt very much led to be part of that service. We don't identify as Indigenous, and yet there are many Indigenous folks that have skin colour the same as me who are proudly Australia's First Nation people. And when I began to know some of my friends at Gungala, I wasn't aware that I was carrying some unconscious bias, which was brought about by my childhood growing up in a country town. There was an Aboriginal mission across the railway line, and where I lived and worked, no, I didn't go to child labour, where I lived and went to school, I had friends from all over town, including from the mission, and we were all just kids. But what I didn't realise that was embedding in my psyche was that Aboriginal people must be all dark, and Aboriginal people must encounter huge amounts of trouble and poverty. And while that may be the case in some instances, as it is for other socioeconomic environments or segments of our population, there's no doubt that Aboriginal Australians have been dealt a really tough gig in our country. And so here I am as a 5'11" white girl getting to know friends at Gungala Church, and I recall going to friends' place for dinner, an Aboriginal couple, and as I drove past their house looking for a car park, this thought popped into my head, and one of it was, oh my gosh, they're not struggling. And I caught myself thinking this and wondered, well, Tarran, what do you actually mean by that? And I realised I'd held on to a belief for a collective group of people that it all meant suffering for that group, and I needed to rethink the way that I was engaging with people. Instead of coming from a benevolent way, I came then from a place of equality and inquiry and discovery. So my invitation to you now from that faith-based perspective, remember we're talking about 3 things here when it relates to authenticity and your focus for February. The first one is form. How do you turn up authentically? Faith. what is it you believe in spiritually and also personally from an emotional and a mental perspective. And in this segment here, we're just talking about unconscious bias. How do you engage with different people groups, for example? How do you engage with people at work? Are you coming from a positive, belief-focused, optimistic viewpoint, or are you coming from a cup half empty? Are you coming from a place where you've inherited other people's opinions as a result of the news, or simply a lack of experience? So, some good questions for us there to consider. And then the third piece for me is about fasting. What is it? What is the benefit of fasting when it comes to authenticity? Well, I could talk about it through from the perspective of substance. What is it that you're going to give up dietary wise? Coffee, alcohol. So for Dave and I, my husband, February, we've made a decision. You know, we don't want to have any alcoholic beverages. We don't mind a glass of wine for dinner. We're not heavy drinkers, but we've gone, no, we're saying no to that. We both love our coffee. We're saying no to that. I'm skipping breakfast every day, but making sure I take care of myself. So even as I describe some of these scenarios to you, it's not about you being the same as me or taking the same actions as me, but rather to use your brain to think critically about the things that I'm sharing and consider what is it that you could focus on this month in the time we have together to improve your form, your attitude, and maybe even, there will be a byproduct physically from fasting, right? Well, at least I'm hoping so. And that is maybe I'll get a little bit trimmer and I'll feel better about myself. And that second part, of course, was what? Faith. And the third one is around fasting. What is it you're prepared to give up? Whether it's TV or to give up an attitude that's no longer serving you. So that's it for me regarding this particular chapter, authenticity, from the book The Alphabet Principle. Before I open up to have a bit of a chat, and thanks for everyone leaving the comments in the thread, if you'd like to grab a copy of The Alphabet Principle, just pop on over to my website to tarrandeane.com, just in case you're wondering about the spelling, tarrandeane.com, and yeah, look for the store and pop one in your shopping bag and we'll have the team mail it out to you. So that's it for the formal part. Thanks for being with us. I'm going to stay on the line now. If anyone has any questions, I'll just revisit the thread, and I'm so excited to have your company. Remember, every day, roughly 5:30, weather permitting, dogs barking permitting, courier permitting, lighting, microphone, mosquitoes permitting, I'll be outside here. There may be the odd occasion where I'll either do the live streaming from inside my home office, or if we're away, well, then you get to come on the road with us.